All right, what's going on, everybody? Like promised, I got my man Scoots Bronson underscore TV. What's going on, Scoots?
Man, what's going on with you, good brothers?
Man, doing great, doing great. How's everything been going with you this week so far?
Man, everything is great, man. Slow motion. You know what I'm saying? It's pay week, so I'm super excited about that. Can't wait till Friday. And you know what I'm saying? Just out here trying to create as much content as I can, man.
Man, I feel you. That's exactly why we doing this right now for the people. You
For
know what
sure,
I'm
for
saying?
sure.
But speaking of creating content, how I got to know you is through podcasting or through
Hmm.
E. For everybody who doesn't know, E is one of our other podcasting brothers who
Yep.
does the First Class podcast. He does the C podcast with me, and also does the 4-3 podcast with us as well.
Hmm.
He introduced us after I had started following and actually listening to a podcast you was on, the Already Home podcast.
Hmm.
So that's how I got my first experience with you and your specific content, even before I met you. And then we met through E.
Yep.
Um, like I just explained who E was there. So my first question to you, since I knew your podcasting before I ever even knew you, is is how did you get into podcasting?
So my first introduction in the podcast came off of you know what I'm saying, the usual situations when we don't, you know what I'm saying, have much, we try to make a way out of nothing. So I lived in Columbus from 2000, I believe it was 2010 to 2013, and I came back home to Dayton in 2014. And you know what I'm saying, me and my family moved back. I had just had a son. He was probably around like 2, so my youngest, he was like 2. And we just found a house, you know what I'm saying, living on the east side of Dayton, and we didn't have cable at the time. And so because we didn't have cable, I couldn't watch ESPN. I couldn't watch, you know what I'm saying, the kids couldn't watch cartoons and all that. And so I would get on my phone and go to ESPN.com and listen to ESPN radio. And it was like this weird section that they had called the Pod Center or whatever. So I
Right.
get
Yep.
on, yeah, I get on there, and I was able to listen to First Take and all these other shows, and I'm like, oh, this it right here. So you know what I'm saying? I work third shifts, so after I would get off work, you know what I'm saying, come home, get enough sleep, get up, you know what I'm saying, get the kids off the bus and all that good stuff. I would turn my phone on, you know what I'm saying, listen to First Take and all the other shows, partner interruption and all that. And then I got introduced to a show called His and Hers with Michael Smith and Jamel Hill. It was previously Numbers Never Lie or something like that.
Yep.
So I start listening to that, and I thought it was just a podcast. Well, I didn't know that it was a show initially. And so it was Michael Smith and Jamel Hill that was doing the podcast. I started listening to them, and they had mentioned Charlemagne, and I knew Charlemagne from the Breakfast Club and all that, but they had start talking or whatever, and Charlemagne mentioned his podcast, Brilliant Idiots, and I found a way to listen to Brilliant Idiots. So I started listening to Brilliant Idiots, and then through Brilliant Idiots, I found Combat Jack, rest in peace. You know what I'm saying, the Podfather. So ended up listening to Combat Jack, and then through Combat Jack, I was just like, yo, this is an amazing thing. Like I've never heard people just sit and talk. And my first Combat Jack podcast I listened to was with J. Cole. And it
Mm-hmm.
was just like super dope because that was the first time like I've heard an artist actually like sit down with somebody talk, outside of it was an interview, but it felt like more than an interview. And so through that, I started going and what I'm saying, watching Breakfast Club videos like everybody else does and everything else. And then in the midst of all that, I ended up getting hip to like 85 South Show and a whole bunch of other different podcasts. And then one podcast in particular that really like kind of pushed the edge was the Joe Budden podcast. I listened to that for the first time and I was enthralled. I was a huge fan of Joe Budden in high school when he had put out that first album. And then to hear him on a podcast and to hear him talking with his friends and they just having fun, they talking about stuff and then like they not really talking about stuff. And I was like, yo, this is
Right.
something that I could definitely do. And I was at work and I was working with my first co-host Gan. And I was like, yo, I want to start doing this, bro. Like, I want to do a podcast. And he like, what is a podcast? I'm like, bro, it's just where people just sit around and talk. And he was
Hmm.
like, oh, nigga, I could do that. I'm
Right.
like, I'm telling you, I'm like, I know. So me and him got together, man, and we talked it out, and we set a date, and it was Memorial Day, and he came over for Memorial Day, and we did our first pod, and I sat online for 3 weeks straight trying to figure out how to get a pod going. What's a podcast? I created some cover art real quick. I found out how to use it. My first ever platform I used was Spreaker. You know what I'm saying? And I went through there and I hit up my dude Devin that I went to high school with. I asked him, could I use a beat for an intro? He like, yeah, I got you. So I bought a beat and chopped it up, made an intro. I had everything ready to go. And man, we recorded our first podcast on the laptop, bro, with no headphones, no mic, no nothing, just an open laptop. And
Hey,
that was that's how it all started, man.
you got to start somewhere, though, man.
Yeah, for sure.
It's crazy because it's interesting to hear how your story started. Because my story was a little bit more traditional with the with going to high school. I went to Patterson at the time. It's
Okay.
Ponans now for radio and TV, and I was actually on the radio and behind the scenes with the cameras, working the cameras
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. So I got a little bit more of a traditional background, I guess you would say,
Right.
into it. And then my college degree is in mass media communications, and I ended up applying for a whole bunch of radio jobs up here in the Akron area, Akron Cleveland area. Did not get one job. I was like, man, I was like, I'm gonna start my own job.
Yeah,
You
for
know what I'm
sure.
saying?
For
They don't
sure.
want to let me talk about the day sports, how they want me to talk about sports. I'm gonna talk about it my way then.
Right.
So that's how we got started. Short
That's
short
what's up.
synopsis version. So I think that's real interesting. So that's what's up though. He said a laptop with
That's
no
it.
headphones, no
Yeah,
mic.
that's it.
And it's crazy because I was listening to y'all when y'all, got started when y'all still before y'all had the mics, and stuff like that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
like now when I listen to Viewers Anonymous, I could tell, y'all at least got the, he might got a head,
Headset.
as I got the headset he normally keep
Yeah.
on. Yeah, so. So it's just weird, bro. Like y'all ain't had no mic, like because I see y'all
Man,
all
listen,
the time
I
now with mics and stuff. So
but see the so the crazy thing was like my first time getting a mic was when I had moved. Um I used to live in some apartments out the way, and I was living there. And my first time getting a mic, I found one for like $20 on Amazon. So I'm like, oh yeah, I feel it now. I'm like, man, I'm in. I done got me. I got a mic. I know how to use the headphones now. So now like in the midst of doing all that, I done found the mic. So I got the mic sitting on the table, and then you know what I'm saying. We sitting in front of the mic. And we got the mic at a distance, but I got it turned up enough to where the mic can catch us. Then I got the headphones on, so I'm trying to teach myself how to talk and engage in the podcast and then listen to everything at the same time. And
mm-hmm.
so it was crazy, man. Like, but I wouldn't have it no other way, bro. It's been a fantastic experience, I must say.
Man, absolutely, absolutely. So, speaking of some of those podcasts that you named, you did name a few. What's your favorite podcast that you listen to now? And then, are there any other inspirations that you from podcasting that you have?
So like I said, man, the one that started it all, the one that actually, what I'm saying, gave me the idea to even do one, it's the Joe Budden podcast. Like I ever since I listened to it, I've been a fan of it since 2016. I've been on it. So um definitely Joe. And then the inspirations, man, I mean, it's too many to name, but to name a few, what I'm saying, Brilliant Idiots with Charlamagne and Andrew Schultz, the 85 South Show, Carlos Miller, DC, Chico. Um, it's a few others, but they aren't like super big. But you know what I'm saying? It's a few people I've actually met over the years that do podcasts as well.
Right.
Shout out to my homegirl Chris, shout out to my homegirl VJ, shout out to my guy Penrose. They all do a podcast called All Docked Up, and then they got their own podcast outside of that. So listening to them, you know what I'm saying, meeting with them, talking with them over Twitter and Instagram and stuff, and being guests on their pods or having them guest on my pods and stuff like that. Like those people are real true inspirations for me because they showed me like I'm a part of a group and I didn't even know it. You know what I'm saying? They just
Right.
as they just as small business as I am, but they still out here, you know what I'm saying, constantly putting content out nonstop.
Absolutely, man. To be real with you, real quick, I didn't even know like some of these online platforms that existed
Hmm.
until I had spoke to you. That's what I was saying. Like how it's so funny that you was telling me like, hey, I ain't even had no mic or no headphones
Yeah.
because I got mics and headphones and I didn't know what a StreamYard was until I talked to you. Like you like, man, what? I'm like, I'm on Zoom doing it. You like,
Hmm.
hey man, I want y'all to try the StreamYard. I'm like, all right. So
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? And now of course I'm on Melon doing it, but that's just from doing different research,
For
doing
sure.
different research and stuff like that. So you know what I'm saying? So different platforms for different needs, but
Yeah.
I didn't even know what StreamYard was or none of that stuff was, bro, until I hollered at you, bro.
And the crazy part was is that, you know what I'm saying, like I told you, we was doing, because, you know what I'm saying, now me and S dot do Viewers Anonymous, and
Mm-hmm.
we was doing that through Zoom when we first started. And the crazy part was it was JD who told us about StreamYard. And once I found out about StreamYard, it took off from there. I was stuck to it, man, glued.
Yeah, man, that's crazy because, like I said, my background, you would think I would have known, but nope, didn't
Yeah.
have no idea, no clue.
Right.
I'm like, what is this, bro? I'm on Zoom interviewing people, which is still cool. You got to do what you got to do, like you said, but hey, that
Hmm.
was what's up. I brought that up just to say that because you brought up the being in the group and stuff like that. It is cool to have people in the group that can be more of an inspiration to you
Yeah.
versus just being around just to be around. All
Right.
right. So so we stayed on the podcast topic and content topic. I guess what's the next steps and like upcoming shows you got going on?
So like I said, started off, I was doing Already Home. That didn't pan out. That ended up phasing out, which I actually still got all the files and song intro graphics,
Mm-hmm.
everything for Already Home. So if I ever decide to like pick up and do that again, I could actually bring that back. And I was actually thinking about that. But you know what I'm saying? I was doing the show called 15 Minutes of Fame. It was a interview based platform where, you know what I'm saying, I was interviewing local people and people that I just found interested on the internet. And after a run with that, which was actually inspired by Breakfast Club, but after a run with that, that's when I had hit as that up. We started Viewers Anonymous. That's still going strong. We This is our third year doing it. Um and then of course 4-3, you know what I'm saying, which you are a part of, you know what I'm saying, the Pentapod as we self-proclaimed it to be. Me and S Dot was on the phone one day, and I was like, "Yo, we should do a sports pod," and we came up with that idea. And then I got another idea that I'm working on right now called Isolated Society, and that's one of those things where I'm probably gonna do it like a live stream. I'm not sure exactly how I want to set it up yet, but I know for sure I got everything for it. I got all the graphics and the intros and everything for that. So I'm actually working on that right now, but that's something that I'm coming up with. And then, you know what I'm saying, I do Twitch. I stream games every now and then. Um I do some music here and there. I do OnlyFans. Like bro, I just do. I try to get myself and get my hands in everything. I make NFTs. Like I do everything as much as I can to at least try to learn. So that way, just in case like something get to going and something get popping, I can at least enter myself in that arena and have some sort of knowledge on it. You know.
Yeah, that's facts. You hit me the NFTs too, like in terms of like where to go and how you can make them and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. Because again, that's one of those things I wasn't even diving into. Cryptocurrency was still on the upswing. You
Yep.
know what I'm saying at
Yep.
that time. So when the NFTs came, I was like, man, this is a nut something else.
Yeah,
like,
man.
but yeah, man. So so yeah, man. So definitely y'all gotta check out the Viewers Anonymous podcast with Scootz and S. Foster. Check out the 4-3 that we are all on, all a part of. It's typically 5 of us on there.
Yep.
Um, so you can catch us on there as well. Definitely check those out. Stay on the lookout for anything else that Scoots is doing, like Isolated Society. And we'll keep y'all posted on that stuff because
For
we
sure.
all are, we all a collective. So you will be seeing tickers and stuff at the bottom of other shows, I'm sure, once we get that stuff going. All right. So speaking of the other content and specifically panel pods and stuff like that, man. Sports, man, that's a big thing for us, man. When we get on,
Yeah.
when we get on, the 4-3, we the only two Cleveland brothers on there. Cleveland
Yes.
fans, man.
Yes.
We got Ravens fans and
Yep.
Steelers fans. Like, come on, bro. Like,
Yeah, man.
so how did you become a Browns fan, bro?
Okay, so this is a wild story, right? So when I was little, my uncle introduced me to football. Like he was the one, like he to this day, he's the only person I know, like blood in, blood out, football 24/7 all year long. He's always been that way. And
Right,
so when I was younger, he used to dress me up in Bengal stuff and everything else. And then, what I'm saying, he had his first son. And so, what I'm saying, that switched from me to, what I'm saying, his first son, of course, as it should be.
right,
And what I'm saying, he still would have, what I'm saying, he still would put me in bingo gear and all that. But, what I'm saying, his son was of course going, what I'm saying, get the most love as he should. And so, what I'm saying, as I got older, he was one of those people that always kind of taught me to, what I'm saying, be my own man and be who I'm supposed to be. And as I got older, I was just like, yo, it's so many other teams that look like, they doing something. I think I'm gonna switch teams, and so I ended up switching teams, and I ended up becoming a St. Louis Rams fan, because of Marshall Faulk, Torrey Holt, Isaac Bruce, Kurt Warner, and all them boys.
facts.
And then I switched again to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because I used to play cornerback, so they had a great defense, and then they had Tony Dungy and all them. Before what I'm saying, the redhead stepchild stepped in and took over and won a Super Bowl. So I was a Buccaneers fan for a little bit, and secretly though I used to always cheer for the Browns because one of my favorite receivers was Dennis Northcutt,
Hmm.
and what I'm saying, he played for the Browns, and anytime we would play Madden, what I'm saying, we would always create teams and everything else, but you couldn't just create a team. You had to take a team roster and use them to put on your team to create the team. So I would always take the Browns, and I would always use the Browns roster. And so secretly, I used to always root for them. And then when I moved to Columbus, that's all they played on TV. And
Yep.
I'm like, yo, this is okay. I get to see these. So it was one of them things where it was like it was fate. Like you finally get to see these boys play. And when I got up there, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and commit to it. I'm gonna go ahead and go with the, what I'm saying, go with the flow, man. I solidified my union, man. I was like, yo, I'm planting the Browns flag, and from there on, man, I stuck with them
Yeah, that's what's up, man. Go Browns. You feel me?
for sure. Dog pound, man.
All right. This goes out to all the other 4-3 panelists. You know what I'm saying? We hating on y'all, all y'all teams right now.
All year long.
Right. Facts. All right. Cool. So the next thing outside of the sports is music. You mentioned music briefly,
Hmm.
and I was listening to one of your songs, the latest one. You just did a TikTok probably like 3 or 4 days ago,
Yeah.
um, before us recording this, and I was like, "Hey, that's kind of fire, bro." So I went,
Yeah.
I
I
went,
appreciate it.
you was chilling, and you was just chilling listening to it. I'm like, "Hey, that's kind of fire."
I
So I
appreciate
wanted
it,
to
man.
ask you, bro, and it's unconventional too because most of us, you know what I'm saying, who people who I know anyway, they do other styles of music. Like I
Right.
know a couple people that's in rock bands, couple
Hmm.
people who rap, couple people who sing like soulful sing
Yep.
or do Christian music. I know a couple Christian hip hop artists, even a couple contemporary Christian artists, but
Right.
never like making dance music. How did you get into making dance music, bro?
So my my music background is like that's another thing that's like fate. Um, everybody in my family could sing. I could kind of sing, but like not like them. So like my grandmother could sing. My grandfather, he played instruments. He played the piano. Saying, all his life. And then my mom, she could sing her ass off. My little sister got that gift too, so she could sing her ass off. I could kind of sing, but like I was always musically inclined. I was always around music. What I'm saying? Just like everybody else, parents, my mom played music on the cleanup days and everything else. But it was a thing to where like, like when most people was waking up cleaning to, what I'm saying, the Isleys or, what I'm saying, Anita Baker, I was waking up cleaning up to Lauren Hill, or what I'm saying, Erica Badu or Jill Scott or D'Angelo, or what I'm saying, on that. And
Yes.
then like my grandfather on my father's side, he was like a real hip hop head. So he had like a whole bunch of vinyls and everything. So I used to be with him listening to like Naughty by Nature, Third Base, KRS-One, you know what I'm saying, Digital Underground and all them. And then my aunt, she kind of continued that, and that's when I got my hip hop from. So what I'm saying, the '90s hip hop and East Coast hip hop, and Jay Z, Biggie, DMX, Bad Boy, Rough Riders. You know what I'm saying? Big L, Big Pun, and all them. And
Right.
then my uncle, who what I'm saying, was forcing me to be a Bengals fan. He was getting me hip to the old school hip hop too. So like what I'm saying, NWA, Ice Cube, Snoop. What I'm saying, all them. And as I grew older, being somebody who was always around a different friend group, I had a bunch of different friends growing up from various backgrounds and religions and all that. I start getting into different music. So then, like, I start getting
Mhm.
hip to rock music. I start getting hip to, what I'm saying, Indian music. I start getting hip to, what I'm saying, all kind of like bluegrass, country, all these different styles of music. And so as I just grew older, my styles of music, what I'm saying, always changed. And so, um, you know, I just was one of them people that, I was hip to Daft Punk. I was hip to, Wale was one of my favorite artists, what I'm saying, when he dropped. And then, he was using house music. And
Yep.
then, you already know where what I'm saying, doing the button, the DC and all them, the EU and all them.
Hmm.
So Chicago house music was a thing for me. Like, and then, the sampling thing and all that. So I just came to it one day, man. I found this app, and I was just on the app playing around making beats. And I was like, yo, I told my little cousins, because they actually rap too. They got a group called We Go High. So they actually rap. So, what I'm saying? Like I said, my whole family is literally like musically inclined. And so I was sitting there, I'm like, man, I'm about to make me, they out here making singles and dropping singles and getting thousands of views and millions of listens and all. I'm like, hold on, bro, I know I can do this too. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So they lit a fire up under me, you know what I'm saying? They inspired me to make some music. So I was like, I can't go the rap route because I already had that phase. I used to have all kind of stupid rap names. Like one of my rap names was Rain God. I don't know why I thought that shit was cool.
Hey,
But
that be them teenage anime kids too,
yeah,
bro. And
man,
I
for
was one
sure.
of them too, bro. I still watch anime, but I'm just saying that's one of them
Yeah,
names that they
man.
be coming up with on their avatars, like
See,
Rain
like
God.
if I'd have waited till now, like Rain Guy would have been a super cool rap name. But like then in the late '90s,
Like,
early 2000s, that was trash. So I was
yeah,
like,
you
man,
had to be some gangster in the '90s, boy.
for sure, bro. Like I remember when like when I was younger. I think I was like probably like 9 or 10. My cousin wanted to rap, and so like I remember Bone Thugs was super big. So like he had us listening to Bone Thugs, Tupac, and all this, and like the closest I could think of was dudes my age, or like dudes I grew up on, was like Crisscross. You know what I'm saying? Like that was, I'm like,
Right.
okay, so cool. So I started rapping like Crisscross. And then off of rapping like Crisscross, like my first ever rap name was Billy the Kid. And so we
See.
took we took some headbands and t-shirts, and we was drawing on them with markers and all that. And I drew Billy the Kid on the headband. Like, so we was trying to become a rap group. It was crazy, bro. So
Yeah.
like I went through all that. So I had my rap phase. I'm like, bro, I don't want to be a rapper. I never want to be a rapper. Um and then, I was just like, let me play with this app real quick, play with the app. Next thing you know, I started making these beats, but I was making jokes with the beats by doing like 80s techno synthesizer music. Because you know what I'm saying, like I really like that music. Like when the weekend come out with them, so like joints, I love them. It take me back to a specific time in music that I really like. So I was like, bro, let me make a couple of these beats. And I made enough of them, and I get to look, and it's about like 10 of them on my phone. I'm like, I probably put make this an album.
Yeah.
And you know
Facts.
what I'm saying? I found a way to put it out. And I did that. And then, you know what I'm saying, my cousins was like, yeah, you can't stop though. You gotta keep going. I'm like,
Facts.
all right, man. So I went back in and I made another one and dropped 2 albums in the same year. And man, that's really how it started. And the crazy thing before all of this was the reason I have such a musical ear, like as far as listening, is because like my mom, she was about to get signed to a record label, an independent record label called Web Records.
Okay.
And you know what I'm saying, we was about to be on tour. I could have been like one of them famous kids and all that, but she just decided not to take that route. But she was on the verge of, what I'm saying, being a musical star too. So it was just something that just ran in my family, and I just continued to try to carry that tradition.
Cool. So what's the name of the albums and where can people find them?
So I got two of them. Like I said earlier, man. My first one is called Homeward Bound. And then I got another one called Elation. You can find them on all the DSPs, Apple Music, Tidal. You can find them on Spotify or Deezer or Prime Music or Amazon Music or whatever it's called. You can find them on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. You can use them as sounds. It's on YouTube Music. It's on YouTube. It's everywhere, man.
Cool, cool, man. That's what's up. Yeah, I caught myself riding to that one, bro. I ain't even gonna
I
lie.
appreciate it.
Doing
Yeah,
on
I
the
appreciate
TikTok.
it. Yeah,
I'm
I
like, this
appreciate it,
sound like
man.
some Need for Speed stuff, bro. Like
Yeah,
I was on that
definitely.
mug chilling, like just
And that's what
driving.
they told me too. They said, "Man, it was like, bro, this you might be able to make some video game music." I'm like, "That's a good
That's
idea.
a good
I keep that in my
idea.
pocket.
Yeah.
I keep that in
Facts.
my pocket."
You'd be riding missing X's just lost like do do
Hey,
do like
man.
oh this the exit
Right.
messing with Scoots. So you got any plans for any more music?
Definitely, man. Right now, you know what I'm saying, I'm kind of doing the podcast thing and focusing on that right now. But every now and then I sit down and put a beat together and everything else. I'm thinking about dropping something, you know what I'm saying, maybe around like maybe May or March. I'm getting that together right now. So I'm not sure how it's gonna sound. I'm not sure how it's gonna work. It's just one of them things that just come to me when it come to me. But yeah, something I'm working on. And a crazy fact too is that Elation album that I put out, the second one,
Mm-hmm.
the cover that I made that album, that's an actual NFT piece that I made.
Oh, that's what's up. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah.
Talented with the graphics too. He does a lot of the graphics. If not, did you do all the graphics for the 4-3?
The only one I didn't do was the logo. JD did the logo.
JD did the logo. Okay, I
Yeah.
thought maybe
I did
he
the
did
first
one
one
of
though. I
those.
did the first one, and then JD said he could do it too, because that's his background. So I was like, shit. I
Right.
mean, why not? So
Facts. So,
yeah.
yeah, talented with the graphics, with the music, and with the podcasting. My man Scoots. So, is it anything else that you want to promote? Something that you got coming out, or something that you're doing?
Nah, for myself, just what I'm saying, the VA podcast, Viewers Anonymous podcast, the 4-3 podcast. Um, like I said, Isolated Society coming soon. And if y'all could all do me a favor, man, please, just please go to all your music, DSPs, whatever music DSP you listen to and use. Not only just search for my music, but search for my little cousin's music as well. We Go High. It's OUIGOHIGH. It's all one word. Go search their music too. Like I said, they're the ones that inspired me to get into it and do it again. So if it weren't for them, I wouldn't be doing this in the first place. So definitely go check out their music too. Once again, that's We Go High.
And they actually got bars too. I went and listened
For
to that.
sure.
I went and listened to their music too. It was fire. I ain't even
For
gonna say and
sure.
hold you. And I'm pretty critical of music, for real.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, they went hard. I ain't gonna lie. So definitely go check them out too. All right, man. So where can people find you?
Like I tell everybody, man, like I said on the podcast, you can find me on Twitter at Scootz Bronson. I got a link tree in the bio. You can find me everywhere else there.
Bet, man. Well, I appreciate you for coming on. I just got one more. Get you out of here on this last question.
Okay.
Uh, so if you could tell anybody who wants to get started in podcasting or music or anything and they feeling apprehensive, bro, what would you tell them?
I would tell them to record an episode on their phone first. And see how easy it is to just do it. The hard part is getting everything together as far as the cover art and the intros if you want to do an intro or where you gonna load it up at or everything else. The easiest part is to literally sit down and record it. Do that first, get a feel for it. Everything else will come to you, I promise.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, Scoots, man, I appreciate you coming on to the podcast, this edition of the Link Podcast, the flagship podcast for the Link ENT LLC. Man, I already know I'm going to be talking to you. especially on that 4-3 when we getting on
Oh
their
yeah, for
nerves.
sure, for sure.
Because I'm getting on their nerves this offseason, boy.
Yeah, buddy,
well,
I can't wait.
well, when we gearing back up, I mean.
Yeah,
But yeah. But anyway, man, I appreciate you for coming on, brother.
man, I appreciate you for having me, bro.
You already know, man. Till next time.
For sure.